Thanks, fellow authors and Vandana. So I would want to start this evening by welcoming all authors to the Vernals launch party. It's a pleasure to have all of you. And it's been almost 6 months since we started coming together at individual levels with Vandana. So I wrote one story. I had actually written one story as part of my upcoming book called The Bachelor's Wife. And so this was the first story I'd written long back, and the Chink in the Arm story. And then afterwards, when she was almost wrapping up with all of you, I felt that I needed to get one more story on board, which was more contemporary. And so I got the other story in. So that's again, real life inspired. So I'm sure that each of you have gone through your personal journeys in terms of uh, why this story. Definitely we have found inspiration from different walks of life, either from a news article or our personal experiences, or some thought. So I would want to start with Vandana ji first in terms of her experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ashokji. And first of all, thanks to everybody here for contributing your part for this anthology, which is the first one from our platform. And when we started, when this idea was ingrained in our mind that we should come up with an anthology, because we are not a very old publication, we are very new. It's been 5 years we have got a study, but we call ourselves new because of COVID. Those 2 years I just minus out from that innings. So when this idea ingrained in my mind, we were just thinking to. It was just an idea to get connected with wider genres with the because everybody thinks in one's own way. Each author has one speciality in his mind, because each author cannot write on each and every subject. So some people like Jivanji, he wrote on sci-fi. Adinath took up that horror part of this. So that was in our mind, that we wanted to explore the world through the authors, whosoever would come in contact. And it happened. And it was a slow process, because it was the first experience for us. It was very slow in the beginning, but then we got around 76 entries were there. Around 76 entries were there after 5 months, and then we cut short few of them, and finally you all are here with us as a family.
Right.
So,
I think we will move on to now Ashi. Ashi, I am telling you, I personally was very impressed with your story, and in fact, I think more than the story, I was lost in the language itself. I think it stood out. It's such a high caliber that I think some of us would have to learn from some of the styles that you have brought in, especially the way you get in and out of a person. Especially the first person. Okay. And then you go back to your past and come back. If of course there are a lot of places where we can always improve, but I think from an effort perspective, and I think the language was tremendous. So the story was gripping, and ending was like you dropped it nicely on the reader's lap. I would put it that way. So can you talk about your experiences in terms of how did you come across this story, and is there a real life Maya, or is it it's a deep adult story actually? I would put it that way.
Um, Thank you so much for the feedback, firstly. And as so far as like the personal experience and what inspired me to write the story, It was mostly just that, all of these ideas were scattered in my head, and I personally am much of an overthinker. So when all of these ideas connected, basically, when I had to pen them down at one point, it was basically like a connect the dots for me, where I formed a whole fictional set out of something, just some ideas that were scattered around. And basically, with just some words here and there, it was what inspired me to create the story.
Uh, anything specific that you personally went through or heard or read, which is more like an external inspiration that brought out that character Maya and the relationship between the protagonist and Maya?
It was something from my past a little bit. A couple of years back, I had a friend who I got separated with during postings and such. And
Mm-hmm.
later on, after contacting her after some time, she was showing off some sort of aggressive behavior, and I retaliated, which I do regret now a little. But it's mutual. Now we're better friends now, but it's really just the inspiration of that scattered idea in my head that took me off to write that.
Let's move to Adi. Hey Adi, how are you?
Hello, sir. I'm fine. Thank you.
Uh, and your story is short, sweet, and I think you left me with a bit of again that sense of the reader has to make an effort to land. That is the type of conclusion you brought. Can you talk about your experience? Do you exchange ideas with Ashi, or you work separately? How do you write your stories, and how did this story happen?
Right, sir. So, I feel most of our stories are just beautiful mixtures of our experiences and our imaginations. So, such was my case. So, I lost my grandmother a few years ago, and I would say that was the root cause of why and what I wrote. Uh, Although it did not happen the same way that I wrote, but as I said, experience plus imagination. So I wondered what it could have been and what, because obviously from time to time I remember my grandmother and feel how nice it might feel if she was here still. And I would say that was the motive behind my story. Thank
Right,
you so
right.
much, ma'am.
Wonderful, wonderful. So gentlemen, let's now welcome the lady in the group, Sandhya. Um, and I hope you agree with me that I'm just trying to be chivalrous a bit. Sandhya, your turn. I read your story. I read your story twice actually. The reason was that I think you brought in two storylines. I think one is a cook from Madurai, if I'm right.
Yes.
I'm struggling to get to the story, so I'm just recalling. So just help me out if I am kind of off the mark a bit, because the fact that I read your story is because I wrote the review also. So and all of your stories I enjoyed, right? I think the second one
Oh,
is
she's a
a
beautician. She's a beautician
beautician, and then both are called to Patna for
for
the
marriage.
marriage. Yeah, and I think the story is very contemporary from the perspective that it touched a raw nerve, because I also run a business, and we all, I think, one way or other, have been impacted. Especially self-employed people have really gone through the struggle, and I think you shone the light on a real life situation and brought it nicely together. So can you talk about? I mean, is it a personal experience, or is it story you heard?
See, the thing which really highlight of first and foremost, before I start, I want to thank Highbrow Scribes for giving us this opportunity, and of course all the co-authors
it's really a blessing moment for all of us. Regarding the story, actually, it triggered when I read an article in Economic Times that this year, post COVID, 25 lakhs marriages have happened in India. So, and the amount which they are written, $40 billion of business. And during COVID, all of us, whether we were employed or self-employed, or we were in service, each one has gone through impact. Parlors were closed, florists had problems, our housemaid too had problems. So I wanted to touch something that a small thing like a marriage can boom an economy. It's a chain of events that happens, gives employment, and employment earnings. In the end, it helps the economy of our country. So that Oja is a character which actually my beautician was doing, and she didn't have we were so all these restrictions, lockdown. So she was having an online class, and she was not happy. She's saying that is not my forte. And Ram, of course, from Madurai is just a fictional character. But I try to bring them that one small event can be a metamorphical change, and it can set a new pace in the entire chain of the business.
And moreover, you have connected almost one part of country to the other part.
Because we no, I made it purposely because we saw the people, in the news, that people traveling from one place to another. So that was also somewhere in the mind. So I said, no, it cannot be from there. Let me have someone from real, cross country, so that that transportation also was a little hitch during this time. So I tried to put everything in whatever little words I could.
Yeah, it was a wonderful story, and it almost put us back to the COVID days. But it is also a story of hope and
yes,
hope and human enterprise. Now Pradeep sir, coming to you, you are the opening batsman of the book. And I remember whenever I open the book, your beaming face looks at on the left top corner. It's a face of wisdom. So I don't know. It was not alphabetical order, but why? But I felt it's a great start of how to compile the order. I felt that the story apart. The story is the second part. It's good. So see I think writing of all genres, in my view, writing a crime story is the most difficult part. That is why I would say Ashi's effort. I'm going back to Ashi because it is a crime story. At the end of it, for a 12-year-old to write a crime story is not easy. Okay, and I have written only one crime story in my life, which is yet to be published. So I don't know. I got a feedback, and that's a different experience by itself. But long story short, I think Pradeep sir, your story was just sliding. Sometimes lack of twist is a twist. Okay, if you have seen, I'm not saying it is predictable, but it is. See, the inevitability of a conclusion, right, brings it closer to the point where the investigator does not have any evidence, and he is sitting in front of the the mastermind. Okay, and both of them know for sure that there is no case to go forward. Right now, the beauty is not the crime or the suspense in the crime itself. It is the ending. Okay. So I didn't write too much because my review was supposed to be short, so I had to pick three, and therefore, I didn't have the space to congratulate you on that aspect. But I felt that your ending. I think your ending left me thinking that sometimes the obvious is the most difficult thing to digest in a crime story, right? Uh, and I think you did an amazing job there, sir. So,
Thank you.
as I told you, you scored a century opening the book.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Can you share your
Actually,
experiences?
when I wrote this, I took help of, as I said, I wrote it about 4 years ago. That time, drone was in thing. It was just coming in, in different departments were thinking of using drones. Anyway, army was also contemplating using drones and all. So that gave me the idea. Another thing which I thought, I actually tailored it like that. I customized it like that. Uh, it says that every crime gets caught. So I wanted that the crime doesn't, I mean, you get caught, but there's no punishment. As you correctly said that, okay, the ending was predictable, but you couldn't help it. So that was my idea of
Exactly. The
ending.
inevitability of the ending was the master stroke in the story. Adinath ji, I think I'm coming to my personal favorite story of the book. I think one of the two favorites to books, Black Cat. I think the magic is the ending in your book. The story, it has all the elements of paranormal. You set it, you can sense it's coming, but you don't know how it is coming. That was the feeling that I got when I read it. And then I actually felt that flood in Surat, flood in that village, that bridge, and then finally you see that the guy who took you home was the guy who was already dead. And the news is not coming to the protagonist; it is actually to his uncle. So the message is delivered to the uncle who knew both sides, that there was an accident, and then that guy was missing and all that. So I think the magic in short story is very different from the magic of a novel. Okay. Novel, the characters have to live long. You need to have multiple plots, but to start from the railway station to the point where I was on the edge of my seat all the time. It is a thriller. Okay, I would put it as in the thriller. It's a paranormal suspense. In terms of classification, the story was again a beautiful, well articulated. The characters played their part, and the way you brought out. So it's again an amazing piece. Can you share your experiences of how
Yeah,
you went to the
first of all,
you went to the genre? Again, it's a very different
yeah,
genre.
it is, yes. And first of all, thank you for your review. And I think it's a great feedback that you have given, right? So this story, as I've mentioned in the intro and just in the beginning of this call, right, that it is inspired by a real event. So I used to live in hostel when I was doing my engineering, and Surat would flood every alternate year. So we would evacuate, and maybe every flood had a story. But this one, I have told it several times in last 20 years to different people, and it was always well received. So that it was there on my mind, and Highbrow, I think it has given me the opportunity to write and get it published. So thanks to Highbrow publication as well. But yeah, it was there, and I would tell it, and it was interesting to the listeners. So I thought of writing it down and seeing it.
Right. So the story is
Yeah.
yeah. I think see, but to experience and learn of learn some from there to a story, and that to the end. End was like a googly. I'm using a
Thank
lot of
you.
cricketing terms because most Indian readers will relate to cricket. So it was a great googly.
Actually, Adinath's story, it compelled us to think that these paranormal things actually exist. Because nowadays we have come to that era or age, we can say, where we don't believe in all these things. But since you
Correct.
told that it's through your personal experience, so that means these things do really exist somewhere.
Some bit of fiction,
Right.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
again, as Adi said, that imagination needs to be poured in to write a story,
so
the beats and
Uh,
all. But then the base is there, right? The base is there. It must have happened with somebody or maybe with us even. But how we are able to connect the dots and create a story out of that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Then Abhijit's two stories, 4700 and Fireflies over Naini Lake. I think point 4700 was is like I think it has a potential for a Bollywood script. I'd put it that way. And it is one story where you feel you could actually write a novel, expand and write a novel, give more background stories to backstories to the uh, characters, and keep the main event as is, so and it's a story of sacrifice. So I think we all left with a little bit of poignancy after reading that story. I felt, mm, you know, it, it is actually an everyday affair in the northern borders of India, and how much we appreciate the freedom we have, how we treat each other within the country. So see, because every time you read a story like this, I just keep thinking whether we are worth it. In the sense, are we respecting the freedom we have? And this story, see, it does not talk about this issue that I just talked about in terms of the value of freedom that the value that to freedom that we give. But the story shines a mirror on it, in my view, on 47, the point 4700. Can you talk about why this story, and sometimes you feel a little bit of teared up. Sorry, I'm a little emotional person because I'm also a poet. It brings out that this story is the um, uh, masala uh, masala mesmerizing story, I would put it that way, of the book 4700.
Right. So little background. I come from an army background. My father was like a senior general in the army, and when this Kargil war started in '99, I was about 24, 25. I was a deeply emotional person, and there were very young people dying in Kargil, like young officers who were 24, 25 years old, and a lot of other people were in colleges starting IT jobs. But these guys, and I had grown up with these young officers, just like young kids, just like anybody else. And so many of them died in Kargil. So I was to be really emotional at that time. I would just read the news every day and cry. And this story I wrote when I was highly emotional. I think it shows, maybe I'm a little raw as a writer when I was young. But this is one of the few stories my father ever read. And he said, you wrote that well. He would never read any of my other stories. But this one, he did say that not bad. So that was, and the Fireflies over Nanny Lake is me writing as an adult. I'm become cynical and little worldly wise, but I've lost that innocence. So in Fireflies over Nanny Lake, I tried to kind of bring that back in. I studied in Nainital, and my mother's grown up in Nainital. So both these stories were very 20, 25 years apart, and I think it shows in how it.
Yeah, it shows. And in fact, I had picked Flyer Files over 9 Lake was one of my pick as well. I think the story is esoteric. See, the fireflies make a very metaphoric presence in the story, and I think the ending, see, the ending is you don't behave well, you don't believe that a lake would be a villain, So here the villain is a inanimate object. It is looming large and right in front of you, and the father, who is one of the two protagonists, is right in front, and I think the way the scenery comes to the way I liked was, I think, the way the boy moved towards the edge of the lake and sees the old man first. I think that scene setting, for me, I think was one of the picks of the book. If I have to pick a piece of writing from the book and say this is a masterpiece, okay, I would say this is the piece. So thank you, Vandana ji. I'm sure all of you would agree that it's been a great experience in this project, and I'm honored to be part of such a diverse and author group in every possibility, genre, age, maturity, style. You think of it is so different. Again, I want to congratulate the authors missing here, Mr. Jeevan, Mr. Amballa, and Ms. Gayatri, for their great work too. We have a great future for all of us. Okay, and I'm sure that in the next anthology, some of us will, if not all of us, some of us will appear again. But I wish all of us appear again, because today we are a family, and I think the experience counts. And Vandana ji, our special thanks for bringing us all together.